Hey, it looks like we are live. My goodness, what is going on with everybody out there in the interwebs? Thanks for swinging by and saying hi, hanging out with me tonight. I really do appreciate it. If this is your first time with the live chat or Fit and Fire, my name is Mark. Welcome to the live chat. Um, this is my live chat that I try to do every single Monday. I've already got next week's already lined up, and I'm really excited about next week, but we're not going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about everything that's going on right now. We've got a great guest tonight to not only talk about everything that's going on socially and politics, but also training and everything else. I'm super excited about that. Look, guys, I leave for a couple of weeks, and you guys tear everything up. I tell you, this is why we don't have nice things. We can't even get through the first 6 days of the new year, and it's already worse than 2020. I honestly think that 2020 was the start of a bad decade. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I do want to take a second just to say hi to everybody. I know that Todd Schmidt was in there first about 4 hours ago. He dropped in there and said that he was first, but what do you know? What are you going to do? I can tell you that we've got 24 watching right now. Thank you so much for swinging by. Art, I see you in there. Thanks for everything, man. Art is a really cool dude. He sent me a Christmas card, and I want to say thank you. I don't know if I told you that last time, but thank you so much for the Christmas card. That was really cool. Creed, what's going on? Kelly Daniels, hey, how you doing? Tammy, get to. Why are you watching me? You got an article to write. Get to writing. Todd again. Mario, what's going on, man? Drop it like it's Scott. Joe Morgan and Rick, man. What's up, man? But there you have it. If you guys haven't already, I've got tons of videos that have just come out in the last few weeks. I've got another one scheduled for this Friday on the SIG M17. So be prepared for that. What's up, Shark Shooter? And we will go from the Clayco. What is up? Hey, y'all. I'll tell you what, Clayco in the chat, if you're not on if you're on Instagram, you're not following Clayco, you need to swing by and check him out. He has some of the coolest stuff on AKs. Go swing by and check him out. The Tunnel Take, MC Competitive Shooter, Bald and Curious. What's up? Hey, I don't know this Johnny Bravo. You keep on talking about this Johnny Bravo guy. I have no idea who that is. No idea. All right, so let's get into it. Let's just jump right in here. We've got Mark from Fit and Fire, and we now have Mark from Barritus. What's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on, Mark? Good to see you again.
Oh, yeah, it's always great. For you guys that don't know, Mark has been on the channel before, and we've been talking off the live chat. We've been a few days ago, last week, we talked like for an hour. Yeah, it was like Thursday last week. We talked for like an hour. Yeah, I'm sitting there trying to cook dinner, and we just couldn't stop talking. So how's things been?
Well, that's kind of a loaded question these days, right? I mean, what a crazy year. Last time I was on the show, I mean, I don't think there was any COVID going on. I don't think we were right at the beginning of all that stuff, and what a year it was. And yeah, man, just crazy. We're just getting by like anybody else and just trying to push forward. They're going to keep rolling stuff out, and you just have to just adapt, plan, execute, and just one foot in front of the other. I mean, that's all you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us real quick what has been going on with the Barritus group, or Barritus Defense, rather. How has things been going on with your training and the like? How's the year been so far?
Well, I guess not really much is going on. I mean, this is kind of the down time of the year anyway for us. Usually I start kind of closing things down, or midway through December, just to I travel a lot. So even with the pandemic stuff, we did a lot of training through different states. And so for those who don't know me or didn't watch the last show, my name's Mark Boer. I run a company called Barritus Defense. We've been doing this since 2013. And I spent about 10 years in the U.S. Army as an infantryman and in an more intel than infantryman. And I got out of the Army, finished school, went to law school. I was an assistant deputy district attorney for 6 years here in Washington County, Arkansas. And then in 2013, I started our security training company. And we've trained units from the DOD, DOJ, Fortune 500 companies, and about 60 police departments across the country, and hundreds and hundreds of civilians and firearms and security operations as well, church security teams, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what we do. And with that background, we kind of have a different kind of angle in the way that we see the world. I mean, we've got the tactical side, the pipe hitter side, I guess, for lack of a better term, but also the intel side. And what that's done for us is to really appreciate the dichotomy between how hard power and soft power are interrelated. And I feel like that's something in particular that we conservative folks or just traditional folks don't really understand, but the left really does, and they do it really well. And you're seeing that play out, particularly in the last 4 years, before that, but even in last week. And so when I say hard power, we're talking about kinetic power. So, most folks that I don't really want to say conservative because, it's much bigger than that. So just traditional people, whether you're libertarian, conservative, or you don't like that label, but just people who believe in self-reliance, dealing with their personal security, low taxes, God, mom, apple pie, all that kind of stuff, your neighbor next door kind of stuff. We tend to think in terms of, if I vote for the right person, they will take care of things. That's all we have to do. We have to vote for the right people and they will take care of it. And then as far as on the local level, as long as I have my gun, I go out to the range and I know how to shoot, know how to handle it, I can take care of my stuff. And as long as we do those two things, then the country is going to be steered in the right direction. And that is naive, and part of the reason why we're in the state that we are, because that's a very one-dimensional view of conflict. And the folks on the left have a much more robust view of how they get their goals accomplished and how they achieve progress. And they use that through the use of I'm going to say soft power doctrinally. That's not probably correct, but just for our purposes, I think it'll work. But when I say soft power, I'm talking about subversion. I'm talking about penetration and influence operations within the government. I'm talking about infiltration and of the media, education system, economic warfare, lawfare, meaning using the courts to cause you to capitulate, and things like that, and use those together to shape culture. Because as you shape culture, you are what we would, and you'll be familiar with this term, we are shaping the battlefield, right? Or they are shaping the battlefield. They're not going to roll in and lay out their agenda first and in an open way. They first set the conditions that are optimum for them to do that. So they have, gained the educational institutions. They've gained control of the media. They've gained control of Hollywood and the movies that we watch, all of the things that we consume. And so they know how to, create the culture that is conducive for letting those things in. And so, while the average Joe is worried about getting a concealed carry permit and stuffing, 10,000 rounds in his garage and, a year's worth of supply of tuna fish cans in his basement, and voting for the right dude. These people have already spent a generation taking a kid through the public education system, indoctrinating them, and that kid is now teaching and brainwashing your child. Or they've gone on to university and got a network degree, and they're in Silicon Valley. I mean, that's where their energy, that's where their input goes. And so that's how they see conflict. It's much more holistic. It's much more on it's a much more holistic discipline. And so, I'll just end it with this before we move on to other things. What we saw last week, that didn't just happen by accident. That's not something that could have happened 80 years ago in this country, but they spent decade after decade concentrating their resources in those other areas holistically, while we were, thinking if we just elected the right person or the right party. And I think we could pretty much see that's just not panned out for us. So the answer, we're in a mess, and we're in a deep pit and cesspool, and it's not something that we're going to just dig ourselves out in a week. It's not something we're going to dig ourselves out in the next election cycle. I mean, this is going to be something that, you're going to have to rethink how you spend your time. And, some folks we're going to have to send people into the education system. We're going to become a school teacher. You're going to have to send people, those types of things to try to go back into those areas. We need to start seeing it holistically instead of, what's the next gun grab going to be?
Yeah. It's interesting that you bring up the school system, because I just watched a video that a friend of mine posted on Instagram, and it talked about, and this is going to kind of go into a little bit of a rabbit hole, but the focus of the video was talking about Christianity in the U.S. right now, and how this isn't something, Christians haven't been, they're not just now becoming attacked. This has been something that's been going on for quite some time, and it started in the public school system with our kids. Now, I will say that I have been fortunate enough to be able to send both of my kids to a Christian school, and they've been in Christian school for the majority of their elementary years, to give them that foundation to allow them to think for themselves instead of having something spoon-fed to them.
Right.
But you're absolutely right that this is a generational indoctrination that has been happening slowly. Tammy puts it in there. They played the long game, and they're absolutely right. Yes. Absolutely right. I think that,
and if I could say, not only they played the long game, they played the right game.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And now it's just kind of, it's coming to light now that technology has been allowing us to see what is going on a little bit easier. Information flow has been able to pass from one person to another a lot easier. Now, I think moving forward, that information flow is going to be extremely more difficult. I did have a discussion over the weekend with a really good personal friend of mine who sees things completely different than me, and that is perfectly fine. But I brought up Parler and brought up how Parler is being shut down, and I didn't get a chance to really dive into that as much as I wanted to. But the other individual was like, well, they were spouting off information about violent tendencies, and they were starting to what's the word? They were putting out violent threats, inciting violence. There we go, inciting violence. But what I came to find out is, number one, Parler had been removing those posts. That was number one. They had been removing it, so they were actively doing something. And number two, if we take away the ability for individuals to voice their frustrations, to voice their opinions, regardless if they're right or wrong, you're going to suppress a group of people. And we're going to have exactly what happened last week happen again. And it's going to be worse. And I don't want to see that happen again. I think that I don't know how you feel about what happened last week, but I honestly feel that set us back about at least 5 years. At
Well,
least.
here's the thing is, anytime you have an event like that, I'll just tell you from like the Intel guy perspective, anytime you have an event like that, your first report is not accurate.
Mhm.
Nobody knows what happened. I mean, the only thing we know, within the first 24 of something like that, I mean, you think you see pictures on social media, you see video, but you don't see the context. You don't see the before, what happened before that camera rolled. If you see a photo that's on Facebook, you don't know if that thing's been photoshopped or doctored or what. You don't know unless you took the photo. Now,
Mhm.
you can mitigate those factors, so that you can vet, there's things, but like just looking off the top, you don't know. And there's the fog of war, there's the chaos, we don't know. And so it takes time. Now, one thing we do know is something happened, right? Because both sides agreed something happened. So as far as who the players were, I mean, I'm not, you see what I'm saying, that, I mean, we know,
Yeah.
I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but that both sides agreed that there was violence, and both sides condemned it. So we know without a fact that much is accurate. But who all was there? Who was involved? You look through and take your pick on the conspiracy of, was it fully minded people? Were there Antifa and left wingers? Buried. Just me, without doing that much digging, my gut feeling is there's probably a mix. Obviously, I think there's probably a mix of two. That's not outlandish to say, but the point is, you don't know. But I say all that to say this, is that the optics are more important than the event itself in this
Yeah.
day and age.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
that it doesn't matter. Just like with Parler, it doesn't matter if they were already self-censoring or self-moderating comments and pulling them. It doesn't matter, because they got tar and feathered, and that was the impetus for big tech to pull them down. It doesn't matter if it was a false flag thing. The optics are out there, and we're stained with it. So yeah, that's where we're living right now. So
Yeah.
the news cycle.
Oh, yeah. The news cycle is not going to stop, and the news cycle the news is not even news anymore. News is just pure editorial. I don't even know really where to get news anymore, because it's editorialized. The authors or the talking heads put so much of their own opinion into what's happening that it's ridiculous. I watched a video today from Philip DeFranco, and I used to watch him regularly to get kind of my rundown of social media and pop culture news.
Mm-hmm.
And I made it a point today that I unsubscribe from him. I'm not going to follow him anymore, because the way that he framed what happened last week completely lost all credibility from my perspective, because just the words that he was using, the optics that he was creating was lockstep with mainstream media, and he is supposed to be someone who is anti-mainstream media. He is supposed to be someone who is a objective journalist, but and just giving you the news. But the specific words that he was using is extremely disheartening. And so I am now pretty much about the only person that I really trust as a journalist anymore. And this is probably not a good thing, but Tim Pool from Tim Pool, Timcast, Tim IRL, his channels. He's the only person that I'm really listening to right now when it comes to media and finding out what's going on. Because yes, he does give his own opinion, but he is contextualizing everything based off of his experiences as an actual journalist. So that's really interesting. I do want to hit the chat room up here real quick, because there's a lot of stuff going on. You guys are really, I mean, I think we hit the match on the head here. VSO Gun Channel jumping in here. He says generational conflict. He's right there. He says he's right off the bat saying that you're correct in your opening statements there. I did want to say that Bob and Rebecca White. He says that they're a public school teacher here, trying to make a difference. Very difficult today compared to 20 years ago when I started teaching. A much different world we live in for many reasons.
You said Bob White?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, Bob. Hi, Bob. Bob's a guy in Pennsylvania. Every time I go up to Pennsylvania, he comes out to a lot of our training out there. So I know him very well. So good to talk to you, Bob. Happy New Year.
Let's see. Art jumping in there saying, I completely agree that it's different, but not just on the teachers. Certain parents and their apathy has left children incapable of independent critical thought.
I mean, yeah. And it's not just, I just pulled the education system just out as an example. So, I mean, there's plenty of that, because it's not just, that didn't happen overnight. I mean, we've all, now we've got, it's economics, it's, the way, families run, split families, they destroyed Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, they destroyed religion, they destroyed the family, they target each of these pillars that keep community and society glued together and healthy and functioning. And so the fallout, there's second and third order effects out of that. So I just pulled the education as an example, but yeah, it goes far, far deeper than that. I just posted on, I guess, the Instagram the other day, and I think I tagged you in it more, but just whoever mentioned generational warfare kind of, or struggle, is that, I mean, that is very true. If there's any kind of consolation, I would say this, is that if these things happen to every generation, right? We are going through this. This is unique for us. But ancestors, in the past, every generation, at least every 40 years or so, cycles some challenge, right? And as that challenge or that trial comes about, the society, the community has a choice to make. They're either going to band together and work to overcome it, and then they're going to evolve to, a higher achievement, higher functionability and growth, or it's going to collapse and the old order dies and something new comes in that could be good or bad. Probably not bad, but the cycle's going to start over again. So, you look in this country since, and this is just off the top of my head, if I can remember from my list, but, in 1774, the Intolerable Acts, it just brutalized the, with the crown just kind of imposed harsh taxes and policies here on our ancestors. And then you had the revolution. I mean, think about living during that time. And then after there, you had the industrial age, which was a time of growth, but also a lot of hardship and challenges for the people. Brutal, child labor, brutal working conditions, lack of all the other kind of unintended consequences, that society had to deal with. And then you had the Great Depression, that my grandparents grew up in, that just hard times. And then you had the 2 world wars. I mean, think about living through that, into, the 60s, the presidential assassination. I mean, just the Civil War, Reconstruction, all of these challenges. So, this is ours. And I'm not saying that, we're going to go through it and we're going to come out of it. What that looks like, I can't tell you, but that is the way of societies, and that is the way. And so I think the answer, at least, is to, you gotta have to put your big boy pants on. A lot of us, and are gonna have to grow up and say, hey, look, I'm not entitled to normal. I'm not entitled to go back to the way things were. That was a dream that we were living. It was nice when it lasted, but now this is reality. And this is the reality for the majority of people across the world, that society is very fragile. It's very unstable. Empires rise and fall. They have a life cycle. They have a shelf life, just like the food in your refrigerator. and we just happened to be caught on the tail end. So we could sit around and dive into the bottom of a bottle and just kind of disappear and say, it's all over, or we start moving forward and we start trying to improve our lives, and we start working together to create some kind of legacy for our kids, and hopefully that can be our next topic that we launch into. But that's my attitude. I'm adopted.
Yeah. Speaking about diving into a bottle, tonight's whiskey is going to be Basil Hayden Dark Rye. I do have it going in a Horse Soldier glass here, but Basil Hayden Dark Rye. If you guys haven't tried it, it's really good. It's obviously it is distilled and then finished in port wine bottles that give it a little sweet taste. So almost kind of like a Canadian whiskey, kind of a Crown Royal, if you will. So
only 10 times better.
Oh yeah, it's so much. It's so good. I do want to say that Landon, jumping in there, Landon Wood, thanks for joining us tonight. He says the mere facts we are being censored, impeached is being drawn up a week before the term is over, tells me there is a threat to an agenda. When the government is afraid, they ban. And that's actually a good perspective. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But, you can kind of shake the magic 8 ball and, all signs point to yes, which is easy for us to say from us because we're the ones getting pushed down, which is very, very interesting. One thing I will say, the kind of pour some fuel on the fire. I did see that a news publication, I think today, from Guns and Gadgets, that said that the Washington D.C. mayor refused or told the Capitol Police to stand down. It's either Capitol Police or the DC Police to stand down from anything going on. Kansas Law Dog, he's in there saying the school currently a here's what to think mindset. The home is supposed to be how to think environment, but it's being sidetracked for other things. And I would agree with that. See if I can get right here. This thing right here. That TV thing for a lot of kids, to include my own. I'm not perfect on this, but my daughter spends a lot of time on a tablet. I really wish that I could figure out a way to be better about that. She is not permitted to have it during the week, so it's all homework, and we spend a lot of time together, which is great. Art saying news is a business. Yep, absolutely. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, we'll get to some of this other stuff a little bit later. So, man, I tell you, I'm something that we mentioned before we got going on the live chat is that it is the 11th of January. And the new administration hasn't even taken over yet. And we are seeing mass censorship and mass purges. We're seeing Parler being shut down by Amazon, who has now, Parler has actually filed a lawsuit against Amazon for antitrust laws. Interesting to see how that happens. I don't know if anything's going to happen. AR15.com has been pulled down by GoDaddy.com. So that's a big website for information for people who are interested in.
I did see, if I could, I don't know, you may have saw this, we're going to say, so I don't mean to jump in front of you, but
go ahead. Yeah.
I did see where AR15.com said that they had found or sourced another host site. So they should be good to go here if they're not already.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I'm sure the chat will help me here, but I think it's AR15-backup.com, I think is what it is. So, that's a forum. I mean, that's a site for people to discuss. Hey, I've got this rifle. I don't know how to fix this widget and put it together. And, other people jump on and say, well, this is how it goes.
Right.
Well, I've got this forge marking. Does that mean that it's from the cult, it's a forum for people to interact and discuss about things that they're passionate about. So, interesting to see if that is something to do with the fact that it is a forum based off of a scary rifle, or if it has to do with some posts that have been identified as potentially inciting violence.
Mm-hmm.
That could be as well. Don't know, but we're starting to see, before the new administration even steps their foot in the door, already seeing censorship. We're seeing suppression. We're seeing websites or apps being shut down, and that's the thing. Freaking Facebook has come out several times to include in the congressional hearings that said, hey, it's a free market. If you don't like it, make your own stuff and you can create your own rules. Well, guess what? Parler did, and they got shut down. And I will say, and I'm going on a tangent, I keep on going on tangents, but let me just get this last thing out. I will say that Philip DeFranco did make a point after he started talking about Parler and how they are suing for antitrust and so on and so forth. He did come out and say that it is very unfortunate that we are now starting to see corporations take over in the informational feed. So if you don't like what Facebook is doing or Instagram is doing or YouTube is doing, it's a free market. You can go out and create your own, but how long will it be up before it is bought out or shut down? And that is a point that he did make up. And so as much as I decided to move away from him, I did appreciate him come out and say, we're starting to see a large group of people who are unelected, who are basically dictating what we can and cannot say. And that is extremely scary. And I wasn't sure if I was going to support Trump with his policy on trying to get rid of Section 230. But now I'm starting to think that maybe this is better than I think it is. I don't know. What's your take on it, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think you've seen some of the other world leaders who were not necessarily big on the president come in and support and saying, I know Angela Merkel was one I saw, and a couple others that were kind of critical of Twitter's move and for good reason, because they realize, you have this entity that is really more powerful than you are, that can control what you're going to say, what you're going to put out, your positions. I mean, that they can basically erase you. And that's pretty powerful. And so we'll see. I mean, I think that's good. I know the India. So I just saw this in passing. So I think Donald Trump was the most popular handle on Twitter, I guess, for an elected leader. I think don't quote me on this, because I saw this in passing. I didn't study it. And interestingly enough, I think the Indian prime minister was number 2 behind him, which kind of makes sense because India's got a huge population, and maybe so. I don't know, but and I think he had gotten either some. I can't. It's just really interesting that he's come out critical. Merkel, some of the other world leaders. I know India had a good relationship with the Trump administration, but I know Merkel and some of the other Western European countries didn't, and they're coming out because I mean that is. I think these governments are realizing, hey, maybe that's a precarious position to be in, where the world has gone to putting out information through these social channels that are, hosted by these, whatever you call them, and that they can have the power to really erase your digital footprint. I mean, you can't, I mean, to me, I would say that that's a threat to national security. I don't care who's in the White House. I mean, that's just me, just kind of looking on the face of it. and to other, elected officials, if they are going to monitor what they say, or I forget what's the word I'm looking for. Basically make sure that they don't say things that would run afoul of these unelected, for fear of being deplatformed. I mean, that's I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. That can't be a good thing. It can't be a good thing. So yeah, it's really interesting.
Deanna is saying that Pelosi bans gender terms like mother, father, daughter, son in the House rules. I mean, you're starting to see. And here's the thing that a lot of people don't understand. Here's the piece that people are completely blind to, and that is that the political sphere and everything that we're living through right now with social justice warriors and you can't say this, you can't do this, and you can't make a joke about this or whatever the case may be. It's on a pendulum, and that pendulum is swinging further and further one direction, and that pendulum is going to get more and more radical. Mm-hmm. And eventually that pendulum has to come back the other way. Mm-hmm. Which is one of the major reasons why, in my personal opinion, which is one of the reasons why Donald Trump was elected in 2016. Yeah. The American people had been, and I'm not even going to dive into the whole Russia collusion, Russiagate, and all that. I'm not even going to. But if we take the 2016 election results as they are, obviously we do. A lot of people believe that it was the American public coming out and saying, hey, look, we have had enough of the previous 8 years, regardless of what was good, bad, or indifferent that came from that. A lot of people walked away from that feeling cheated. If you like your doctor, you can keep it. Hey, I have access to drones. Let me go drop a bomb on a U.S. citizen. Because I don't like what he's doing. Let's create a new war. Let's destroy the government in Libya. And oh, by the way, we destroyed the government in Libya because it was a terrorist threat. It was a national security threat. And now what do they have in Libya? They have slavery in Libya now. Good job, Obama administration. You guys did a great job there. You've got the situation with Benghazi. Four U.S. civilians were killed while the State Department did nothing about it, and they lied about it to get people to feel better about themselves. I mean, we can go on and on and on. And regardless of how much you like or dislike, how much you think that Trump was a sexist or a racist or a homophobe or a xenophobe or whatever the case may be, what he did do was improve the economy. He did do he improved the economy. He didn't enter us into a new war and tried to take troops out of the Middle East. Was that the right thing to do or not? I don't know. I'm not a general, but he didn't start a new war. I can tell you that. And he had 4 historical peace treaties in the Middle East. No other president has ever done that. And people are blinded by all the other bad, negative stuff. So I'm very critical of Trump. I think that he is probably one of the most anti-Second Amendment presidents that we've seen in a very long time. I don't agree with a lot of things that he did, but you also have to take the good with the bad. You can't say that he was the worst president ever if he had all of these other things going in his direction. So there's my rant for a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, we're off the rails at this point. I'm already red in the face. I can see that I'm red in the face right now. So there was another aspect that you were talking about earlier that you said that you wanted to come back around and touch on. What was that? I think it had something to do with, or we talk more about the kids' upbringing and just.
I'm lost it. I can't really remember where I was at on that, but
that's fine.
I think just if you're good with it, just kind of moving on it. I think the next thing is, I think we've beat that horse enough about the
I
current
think so too.
state. But I think the next thing is people are like, well, what do we do?
Yeah.
What do I do?
Mhm.
The one how should I be training? How should I be preparing? And I think um, well,
And I
how do
think
I salvage that? But I mean,
well, no. I think I know exactly where you're going with this,
yeah,
and what you're getting ready to say has no political affiliation whatsoever.
right.
This is not what you're getting ready to say. I know where you're going with this. This is not. This has nothing to do with the conservatives or the Republicans
Mhm.
or Democrats or liberals. This is I think you're getting ready to start talking about how do I prepare to defend myself, my family, my home, um,
Yeah.
and what I believe is right, and the values that
Yeah.
a lot of people believe in, and realistically, that runs across all political spectrums here.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And so, if we're talking about, we talked about blind spots in terms of society, hard and soft power and things like that, and how we got where we were today. Um, there's, I think there's blind spots as far as how people are training and adding to their knowledge base on applying those skills. And and the way I guess so, and so in a broad sense, we can talk tactics, like whether or not people are learning tactics, whether they're learning them properly, whether they should be learning them, that kind of thing. So this really came to me, how I started out on this, really through our law enforcement training. So a couple of
mhm,
years ago, the rises in ambush deaths for police officers were on the rise, and they skyrocketed, probably I think around 2014,
mhm.
and it began going up and up. And ambush death is the number one, this word is felonious cause of death, which just means death by the hands of criminals versus getting in a traffic accident. There's a lot of perils that law enforcement officers face on the job. And I will tie this into the civilian, the security minded civilian, but this is just kind of like the origin story of this. So there's a lot of perils. They can get killed in a car wreck on the way over to answer a domestic disturbance call or something like that. Um, all those kinds of things. But as far as where a criminal is involved, the ambush is the number one cause of death. In fact, other causes of death for law enforcement officers are going down over the years. It's actually getting safer in all the other areas of policing, except for when it comes to the ambush. That one is actually on the rise. And that was because a lot of what we do is training with law enforcement officers. Obviously that was something that was on, wherever we go, that was always on top of mind for these officers, and we would talk about it a lot. And I began about 3 years ago to ask, well, what are you guys doing? What's your training like? And they said, we don't really do any training on it. We may have some briefs about it on the changeover brief, or we might do a couple hours here or something, but we're not really getting a lot. And when we do get any kind of training, it's really more focused on officer safety or officer survival versus any kind of tactical, like systematic body of knowledge that could be, studied and disseminated out to the department and utilized, across the board and things
Mhm.
like that. And I was like, for us, for military guys, that is so foreign to us because we do operate by doctrine. Like we
Yeah.
do learn tactics, we do learn doctrine. Now, a lot of people say, well, you don't learn it in the book. We do it. Look, man, the tactics come out of the book. Now, that's just the guide, the way they get applied, in the jungles of Vietnam versus the caves of Afghanistan might be different. It might look different, but the tactics, the principles are the same. Those have not changed. And so, I spent about 3 years just kind of studying the problem, getting materials from the Law Enforcement Memorial Fund and other groups that have put out studies on this stuff, and then just anecdotally Man, I bet I probably talked to almost 100 law enforcement officers across the country, just kind of figuring out, well, what are you guys training on? What are you not getting? And I kind of sketched out the fact that it did dawn on me that they really are not getting. I'm not saying none of them are, because some of them are, but I'm just broad brushing here. I said that, no one is really teaching these guys tactics. They're more focused on techniques,
Mhm.
and these guys are getting killed as a result of it. And so we developed a counter ambush course, and we started running that in different places, and it did real well. But I would begin the class by, this word tactic, which is so overused and abused. We've got
Yeah.
tactical pistol classes, we've got tactical pants, tactical knife. I heard some, like, literally, I read in a book that talked about a tactical breathing exercise. I mean, like, this word tactical, like,
Interesting.
so I will usually begin this class and I'll say, hey, can someone define for me what a tactic is? What are tactics? And I mean, you want to talk about a bunch of blank stares and a bunch of gotcha grins, and then guys will be like, well, I know what it is, but I can't really articulate it. I don't, and we've all been there, like, well, we know what it is, but I don't know how to explain it. So yeah,
I, I
those
think
types
I
of
think
things.
I think all you need to do is just watch the movie Commando with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
And you're
Solves
good.
all your
And
problems.
in fact, that's what we do for 3 days. We just watch Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, and then I hand them the certificate, and it's done, dude. So it's easy. It's really easy.
So,
No,
and
and so
that's a great point, though. We have, sorry to interrupt, but we have all of
mhm,
these classes out there. We talk about, defensive pistol, defensive rifle, defensive carbine. We have, I've been to, um, uh, with James Yeager, tactical response. I've been with over there with his fighting rifle and fighting pistol, and yeah, it's here's how you pull up and shoot, and okay, here's how you shoot, and here's how you reload, and here's how you shoot from the ground, and all that jazz. And that's where we're missing out. Not necessarily from tactical response, because they do have some other classes,
sure.
uh,
Yeah.
but I think that that's something that you're really starting to tap into is what do we do once we know how to shoot a pistol, once we know how to shoot a rifle, once we know how to reload,
hmm
what do we do then?
Yeah.
And that's a
Exactly.
great way to
Yeah,
look at
exactly. And so, so then once we have a laugh, or I have a laugh at their expense, and we just get, we kind of joke about it, then we define what tactics are, why they're important, why you need to know them, and, and differentiating them between a technique. Because right now, law enforcement, and here's the segue into civilian training, for the most part as well, is technique based
it.
training. It might say tactical pistol, but if you look on the curriculum, and this is not a bad thing, because technique is vitally important. You can't, it's the other side of the coin. I can't take a quarter and have a dual, heads on both sides and take that and spend it. That's not a quarter. It's got to have heads. It's got to have tails. So I'm not, I'm not disparaging this a skills class, because you have to have the skills, so, or a technique class. But what I'm saying is a lot of these tactical courses are skills courses. They're not teaching you any tactics at all. um, and it's important that you know that when you go to those courses, because go ahead and go to that course and learn and soak it up, but you have a blind area in your training. So in the military we use tactics, techniques, procedures. In civilians, we are not being taught the importance and the value, and the police, for instance, for that matter, are not being taught how to differentiate and how to train them and bring them all together holistically. And so
Absolutely.
so I started this so let's differentiate, what is a tactic, what is a technique. And we've already said that, the technique is the skill, right? The how do you shoot, how do you shoot faster, how do you shoot more accurately, those are the skills. What about if I'm in a different position, these, even these unorthodox, if I'm in a broke back prone, or pancake prone, or some of these urban prone or whatever, those still are not tactics. I mean, they can be used tactically, but you're still building that skill, which is vital.
Mhm.
But the tactics would be the knowledge and the judgment to apply those things, right? To apply the skill to accomplish a
Yep.
goal or objective.
Mhm.
That's the big difference. And so when you're techniques based, i.e., focus on officer survival and everything, you're not, you're actually, well, because I'm going to talk about it here again, you're violating certain tactical fundamentals that is going to drag the engagement out. And when it gets drug out, you are increasing the likelihood that you're going to die, or a innocent civilian's going to get taken as a hostage or get killed, as part of incidentally, and those types of things, because you are focused on things that are secondary. So we created this course. It's a 3-day course, and I adapted one for the civilian market as well. But our focus on the counter ambush course is to holistically look at tactics and to begin to teach those. And it's only 3 days, so we can't focus on everything, but we try to kind of really drive home 3 tactical fundamentals, and that is of maneuver, fire and maneuver, of gaining the advantage, and decisiveness. So if I may, I'd like to unpack those 3.
Absolutely. Go right on ahead.
All right. So, when you talk about fire and maneuver, you're talking about maneuver, right? What we mean when we say that is teaching you, or down here in Arkansas, as we'd say, learning you how to move in such a way that protects you from all attacks, to neutralize the threat's ability to harm you or to attack you,
Yep.
and to dominate the engagement. That would be maneuver, how to skillfully do that. So a lot of dudes will tell you, need to get off the X, return fire, and that's all right. That's a start. That's not where it ends there, because the battle space is constantly moving. Cover and concealment is not just for defensive purposes, it's for offensive purposes too. You should, I think, in large part, be thinking in terms of offense, in terms of neutralizing, taking ground, taking how to move. So people, plenty of folks will tell you you need to move, but they don't tell you how to do it. And so those are the things, and that includes things like cover and concealment, which in class they'll talk about cover concealment. They'll teach you how to use cover, but not just, it's more from a standpoint of, okay, get behind, get off the X, return fire, and then we're all done. And in the real world, that does not always happen. It's that piece of cover then can become a death trap for you if you stay there too long. If that person is moving, or you have multiple assailants, or those things, in a dynamic battle space, what is a good piece of cover for one moment may be detrimental to you. And we've got plenty of data to suggest that, plenty of gunfights and officer involved shootings that would bear that out.
Yeah. So a great point to kind of concise all of that into an idea is something that VSO Gun Channel Curtis from VSO has said: movement is life. If you're constantly moving, you're more than likely going to stay alive. So,
and I would have a caveat with that I would add to that, and maybe he does explain this too. I'm not familiar with them, but fire without movement is indecisive, and movement without fire is fatal. So you got to move, but you got to move the right way. And that gets back to move in a way that protects you from all attacks. So we can kind of get back into that, but I'd echo what he's saying. So now that you got fire and maneuver, and that gives you the ability to locate, index the threat, close with it safely, and to neutralize it. In the military, we'd say locate, close with, and kill or destroy. But in civilian and law enforcement parlance, we like the word neutralize. So that's fine. They're one and a half dozen of the other. But so then from there, you move into gaining the advantage. So in battle, and why we'll relate this to the civilian world because it's important. In battle, you have to obtain the advantage over the adversary. I think everybody can agree with that. No fair fights and things like that. But it's not. It's fighting and maneuvering in such a way that you deprive him of his ability to gain an advantage on you. And, you know, there's a few different things that we will cover in those courses where we talk about, you know, key terrain, you know, using the terrain. And I don't care if you're out in the woods or if you're in a parking lot, you know, the terrain is what is laid out before you. And cars in a parking lot, there's nothing sexy about a car. It's just an obstacle. It's just a venue for you to be concealed or provide some kind of cover for you, depending on the ballistics that, you know, the threats using against you. But you know, the quality of that cover, I guess, is what I should say. And so, you know, you do that through, you know, the terrain, fire superiority, and timing, you know, and things like that. And so, you know, we cover those things, or not timing, that goes with decisiveness, but key terrain, you're using the terrain offensively, not just defensively. Understanding fire superiority, you know, suppressive fire, you know, your rapid sustain rates, things like that are even applicable in a civilian model. And then creating dilemmas for your threat, right? Causing problems for him that he has to solve in real time that gives you the ability to maneuver on him. Those types of things that in the military world that we're very familiar with has not been pushed out to law enforcement. It hasn't been pushed out to law enforcement because they're afraid of it. They're afraid of militarization. So they know, first of all, you got a lot of cops that were in the military, and so they know it. They know how to do it, but they don't necessarily pass it on to their buddies because, you know, they're not their department's instructor and everything, or it gets passed out anecdotally, but it's not passed out in a systematic way, department wide. You know, so they're afraid of it. They think it doesn't apply to them because, well, you're over there in Afghanistan, you can mow down a whole village. You know, we're accountable for every round. I'm like, dude, it's so far from the truth. I mean, so far from the truth. You know, yes, we have rules of engagement, but those change with every deployment. You know, when I deployed, you know, my rules of engagement were very different than Alex, who's one of our instructor, you know, that was 5 years in Ranger Battalion. You know, his rules of engagement were different when he deployed, and he deployed 4 times to Afghanistan, and he'll tell you they were different every time. And so they change. You know, you can speak to that too, that, you know, we are accountable now.
Yeah, our ROE in Iraq in 2003 was don't shoot civilians, and that was basically it.
Yeah, sounds kind of similar to, right? I mean, don't shoot innocent civilians. So so that's usually when, you know, you have to, usually the first day spent, you know, in the 3-day course is just spent kind of undoing, kind of getting in their head and showing, you know, what the tactical principles are, how they work 30,000-foot view, how they are the same, whether or not you're a soldier, a Marine, or you're a police officer on the beat. The tactics and the principles are the same. They just get applied differently. And it's the same whether you're driving tanks, whether you're fighting man-to-man or squad, you know, platoon size element, company, or a fist fight, a knife fight. Like, the tactics are the same. They just look different in their application. So anyway, advantage, you got to get the advantage. You got to press it. You got to keep him from using it on you. And there's a way to do that. And then finally, decisiveness. And I already kind of hit that earlier, that the longer the thing draws out, the more chance you know it's not going to go well for you, because you know, you have to, especially as a law enforcement officer, you have to secure the scene as soon as possible so that his other buddies, other people in the neighborhood. I mean, there's been cases where there's been one threat, and, you know, the police are engaged, they're trying to neutralize them, and then all of a sudden, you know, some dudes in the neighborhood just decide to get in on it, you know, that kind of thing. And so, you know, that I've had cases where, you know, passerbys, innocent victims were shot at, you know, unintended drive-by, you know, unintended consequences, that kind of stuff. And so understanding utilizing timing properly. You know, I could geek out on all of this, but that's, that's what we do in the law enforcement class. And we've had a really good, well, so what about the civilian? Because I would imagine, just like the officers will say, well, that military stuff doesn't really apply to us. By the end of the course, you're like, holy cow, this is exactly what we need. You might have some concealed carry holders or security minded folks. It's like, yeah, but I'm not a soldier. I'm not a cop. I'm gonna Wild West it. Most of the shootings happen between 3 to 6 feet or whatever that figure is. I don't know if that's true. I hear that a lot, but and maybe it is true, or it's the majority is one assailant, and that might be true. But the fact is, why do I need to know all this maneuver stuff and advantage and all that kind of stuff? Well, there's a couple of reasons. Is a Westgate Mall shooting, that happened in Nairobi.
Yes.
We've had plenty of active shooter situations here where what happens when you're at a shopping mall and you are separated from your loved ones? What are you going to do then? What about if the threat is between you and your family, that you got split up? What do you do then? Are you going to run away? Are you going to leave the scene? I mean, you can do that. You can call 911, or are you going to go try to find your loved ones? And if you encounter that dude or dudes, what are you going to do? Because just standing straight and drilling holes in paper, that's a very good skill to have, but that is not going to give you the knowledge and the judgment necessarily that you need to deal with that. Mm-hmm. And that's why you got to learn tactics.
Absolutely. Yep.
And
I think that,
yeah.
Go ahead. You talk about being decisive for people like myself. I kind of chalk that up as violence of action. Would you agree that those are kind of interchangeable? Basically, once you've committed to something, that you need to pour as much violence into.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that can be a component of it. Part of it also is understanding timing. So in every engagement, I don't care what it is, if you're in a jet plane, in a dogfight, naval ships, or a dude on the street that draws a knife on you, every battle engagement is subject to 3 timings, right? Mm-hmm. And they will cycle through. Not to go into like OODA loop when I say cycle, but they will cycle through, and you have behind time, equal time, and ahead of time. Mm-hmm. So a behind time is you are ambushed, right? He goes first. That will look a certain way. He has the momentum, and that is very hard to recover from, mm-hmm. right? If some guy gets you flat-footed in an alleyway or around a corner and sucker punches you and begins to, initiate the violence of action, it's not just the violence of action that was part and parcel. It was also that he went ahead of you. He was mm-hmm. ahead of time. And now your brain is sloshing around in your skull, and you're having to react, and your neurons and things are having trouble kind of fighting and doing the decision-making of how to mount a counteroffense or a defense, because, you're being pummeled. So, that's behind time. And so when you are behind time, you have to know how, as fast as possible, to at least equal your opponent's timing, but you ultimately want to surpass it and go ahead of time, to where now in Army or military parlance, that would be assault. So behind time would be likened to a ambush. Equal time in the military parlance would be chance contact, right? That's equal time. That's we see each other. So that's military. That is, he's got a gun, right? That in police or civilian parlance, it's like you see the gun, you see him reaching for it. It hasn't gone off. It's not shooting at you, but you see it, and that's chance contact. That is equal time. And then ahead of time is you go first. You are assaulting. You are committed to the action. And by the way, just this is an aside for folks that are, geek out on martial arts and stuff. All this, my kung fu beats your, white pain karate, fights and arguments that they have on YouTube. my technique is better. Again, that is someone who doesn't understand tactics. They are technique focused. And the fact is, any technique will work with proper range and timing. I mean, you understand?
Absolutely.
Even I'm no fan, and no offense to anybody that's into Aikido. I think it's a very beautiful art to work on. I would not recommend someone go out and learn that as your first go-to, because just from what I've seen and my understanding is you kind of have to have your partner cooperate with you a little bit, to give you momentum to work with. But I have seen that work on real life. A gunman, this guy, but he had the timing, had the range.
Mm-hmm.
So a move that normally people would be making fun of and say, "Oh, that never works. That never works." Well, this guy snuck up on a gunman and went full speed and ran up behind him, and then came off to the side and grabbed his hand, and then did one of those circle things, through the dude like crazy, like a thing of spaghetti. And I mean, it worked because why? He had the range, he had the timing. But if that guy would have decked him in the face, or would have been trying to choke him or something, maybe it wouldn't have worked. And that's true for that's true for all the techniques. That's true for all of them. So I think once people understand timing, and it's not just, you have to see it more than me just talking about it, but it's, timing, getting ahead of time doesn't necessarily mean go faster. Sometimes slowing it down or stopping can, I know as weird as that sounds, again, you have to see it. Sometimes even stopping will put you ahead of time against the threat. But that's kind of getting in the weeds there. So violence of action is part of it, but really the understanding timing, because once you understand the timing and you know how it looks and you know how to train it, and how to integrate it with the other tactics and your skills and your techniques, then you can control it. And when you control it, you set the tempo of the engagement. And when you can do that, then you prevail.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And this is one of the things that you've said it already. And Tom, he actually, in the chat room, he actually said it quite a bit ahead of time than what you would have been saying. But basically, need to turn techniques into tactics. So you have the aspect of what you were talking about with Aikido, that they are technique focused, but they are tactic focused. So
and so this just kind of, not picking on him. I think he's on the right track. If I could just maybe just kind of help that a little bit. It's not turning the technique into the tactic. The tactic is the way you apply the technique. So the tactics are the knowledge and the judgment of how to apply the specific technique to get the end state, your goal or objective done. So they're very much together. So at no point should anybody, if they're running a gun class and saying, well, I'm not covering any of that, this guy's trolling me, or not at all. Those courses are good. And I'm not saying that instructor is bad, because you can't teach everything in one class, right? You can't cover it all in one class. So they're very important, but the thing that is going on in the community today is that's not being transmitted, is that people don't, by and large, know that, and they don't understand that, and they're not being told that, and they're not even being told that by the big names in the business. And the reason why, well, there's a couple of reasons why tactics are not being transmitted, in large part. I know there are some people that are doing it, but in large part because, number one, the instructor doesn't know them. That's a possibility. There's plenty of that going on. Or it's not conducive to the format in which they're teaching. So if you've got, let's just take somebody who's a really big name, he's a big draw, and let's say he's a 10th level Navy SEAL, huge, million subscribers on YouTube or whatever, and he's charging $500 a day, and he's packing out that class with 20 to 25 people for a one-day class. He's not going to have time to, you're being drawn, you can look through he's not going to have time to teach you how to, your shooting fundamentals, how to get your draw presentation, side alignment, side picture, trigger squeeze, breath control, all that stuff, and then teach you, and then run these firing orders through. He's not going to have time, and then to go through these tactics and then build, because some of these drills, I mean, you can only do safely, especially in a civilian course. You're not going to do it on day one. I mean, we'd never do that on day one ever. You might get there on day two. So now you're day two in the course, and we're running these drills one person at a time, two people at a time, once they built up to that and are ready for it. So, you can't have 25 people sitting around waiting while you focus on two people. So you have to run smaller classes, and there's not as much money in that, I think. So that's my theory on why it's not going down. Maybe they don't think people are interested to it. I found that once people are exposed to it, they're like, it's like the Holy Grail. They've realized what they've missed. Now they feel like, now I had the skill with the gun, but good grief, I was probably just going to get myself killed with it. Now I really feel like I know how to move on somebody. I know how to take care of things if I have to. Not that they're going out there looking for it, but if the problem presents itself, they know how to solve problems.
Right. Right.
In my opinion.
Sure. Yeah. No. Absolutely right. No. And those are some really great points. Absolutely, some great points. What else did you want to kind of dive into as far as training goes? Is there anything else that you wanted to touch? Because we are about 10 minutes, 11 minutes past the hour mark, and if there was anything else, we could dive into that.
Well, if I could do a shameless plug,
no.
Yeah. Well, if I could just talk about it, dude, I know, and plug for him maybe. No, I mean, if people are interested in doing this kind of training, there's two ways that we do it. I launched first, this started out as a counter ambush course for cops. I didn't do anything with civilians, but then when people would see it on our newsletter, they kept asking, can I go to that class? Can I go to that class? And I was like, well, I can't let you in that, but we adapted it for the civilian concealed carry holder. And so if you're, so we run it live. It's a 2-day instead of a 3-day, and we do run those live, but also have an online version of the course. They're best to do together because there's things on the online course that we don't go into on the live event, and vice versa. So it's not, we've had a lot of folks that will come to the class and then they'll get the online course, or vice versa. So if you're interested in that, we cover, it's got 3 modules. We cover, basically to raise your awareness, understand the threat, and to enhance your defensive capability. So raising awareness, we're talking about situational awareness, spatial awareness, things like that, as far as it goes in relation to the battle space and timing, staying ahead of time, that type of thing. And then understanding the threat, we talk about domestic terrorism, active shooter situation, mob violence, how to deal with mobs, how to navigate through mobs, which are very timely right now. That kind of things. And then the defensive capabilities is a module on, ambushes, how ambushes work, counter ambush tactics, tactics is, a deeper dive than what we talked here. And then actual drills, that you can do to help develop this skill set. And there's also a bonus course that we created that you get for free. It's 5 drills that every concealed carry holder has to know. So if they're interested, they can go to our website, Barritus Defense, www.barritusdefense.com. And if they just hit that, they'll go to our homepage, just scroll halfway through there where it says online training, click there, and boom, all the information's there.
That's absolutely amazing. I did neglect. I think I neglected to, or did I? Should be down in the description below your website. So if you guys look in the description, yeah, I do have the Barritus Defense website, your YouTube channel, and then also where you can find you on Instagram as well.
Awesome.
I do want to take a second to say a special thank you to two people real quick. Number one is Alaskan Ballistics. He put in a super chat right at the beginning of the show, and I didn't get a chance to say thank you. But guys, if you haven't already checked out Alaskan Ballistics, he's doing a lot of great stuff with larger caliber stuff, accuracy testing. He does some interesting stuff with ballistic plates right now as he's running through that. I really do appreciate him dropping in a super chat for that. And then Pretonian Guard, he dropped in $9.99. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I'm just a hick from Kansas. I don't none read too well. So, but thank you so much for that. I really do appreciate you, the monetary support, guys. It really does help, especially right now when ammo is just ridiculous. And that's actually a great question for you. Of your classes that you have done here recently or looking forward to, have you looked to kind of scale back the round count on some of your classes at all?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, so we scale back the round count a little bit. We always tell people that everybody's a grown up. So if you have the ammo and you want to bring it, you'll get an opportunity to shoot more. If you want to hold back, that's fine. We'll run it with the minimum. We've got plenty of things that we can cover, plenty of skill building things. You don't have to burn up whole magazines of ammo to get the benefit of it. So we've been doing that, and we found it works real well.
Outstanding. Patronian Guard, he says, Mark's training is legit. I took his first counter ambush course. He's a good dude. I'm his favorite fat cop in St. Louis. And then
all right. I don't know your handle, but man, I bet I could I'll go back through my my list. I bet I'll figure it out. Hit me up on Instagram, dude. Let me know who you are. So
awesome. Rick H has said that Mark's training is great, highly recommended. I know that Bob White has also recommended you as well. So awesome. I did have a question. Chris H here says, are you doing some classes closer to North Texas Panhandle area?
We want to. We primarily run I'm in Arkansas, so I'm really close to you, big time. So Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, Pennsylvania. I've done some stuff in some other states, but those are our big hot spots. Used to do Florida, want to get back there, but really have been wanting to push into Texas. So if you're interested, hit me up, and we can just, we'll talk about what it takes to pull something off down there as far as hosting a class. We just basically need a spot, and you just kind of help us put the word out, and we pretty much take care of the rest. So it's doable.
Petronian Guard says it's Elliot from St. Louis.
Oh yeah, man, my man Elliot. Hey Elliot, good to hear from you, man. Good to hear from you.
And then Landon, he says that he wanted to give a shout out to Fit and Fire. Well, Landon, thank you so much for that. You're awesome, man. Appreciate that. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start wrapping things up. Naturally, what I do on every end of my live chat, I'm just going to give the floor to you. Whatever else you want to say, Mark. The floor is yours. I know you've pretty much covered everything so far, but if there's something that you want to recap real quick, please, by all means.
Yeah, no, man. Just again, if you're interested in the online course and you can't make it out to a class, that's a great way, and you can download it. You'll have access to the material forever. As far as the other stuff, it's. I'll make it real quick. Yes, we're in dark times. Yes, nothing is certain. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what to do. So, start building your network, start building your community, not digitally, but, face to face, keep looking up and just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And that will go a long way. Just some planning, having faith with people who are around you, people that you can trust and rely on, and put one foot in front of the other, and we'll get through it. We really will.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really some really great advice, and that advice transcends anybody's political ideology. At the end of the day, for a lot of us, we just want to see everyone happy. We want to see everyone safe. We want to see our liberties maintained. That's all we're asking for, and we want everybody to prosper. But unfortunately, we also need to while we need to be tolerant and loving towards everybody, we also need to be prepared. And preparedness comes in three aspects. Number one, making sure you have something to eat, making sure you have something to drink, and making sure that you know how to defend yourself and your family and your livelihood. So just keep all of those things in mind. Mark, man, it has been a great live chat.
I enjoyed it.
I can tell you that, to be frankly honest with you, I was dragging a little bit before we started, and you just really perked me up, and I appreciate it.
Awesome, man. I had a good time. Time.
It's been great. I have to be up at like 4:30 tomorrow morning. And the problem is I should be in bed probably within the next 15 to 30 minutes. And I don't know if I'm so jonesed right now. I don't know if I'm going to be able to go to sleep very easily. So. But
good luck, bro.
Yeah. Everybody in the chat room, please, if you could, share this live chat with your friends. Make sure that they are aware of Mark and Barritus Defense. I personally have not been able to link up with Mark as of yet, but we are going to be working on that to work on getting some training and do some video work of what your training is all about as well. We have plenty of stuff going on in the chat room talking about how great of an instructor you are. And awesome. Just again, share this with your friends. Make sure that everybody's aware. Social media platforms, wherever they'll let you do it, and just spread the word as best you can for Mark, because he's been on the show twice now, and there's a reason for that. Because I want to support him as much as he's supporting me. So, Mark, it's been great.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you. Thanks to everybody who lasted with us. Thank you.
Yep. So everybody, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for tonight. Thank you so much for spending your Monday evening with us. At the end of the day, please make sure that you guys are doing everything you can to be safe. Take care of yourself, your family, and one another. Start, as Mark said, man, start creating that network of people. I've got some apps on my phone that I'm using. Signal is a great app that kind of pulls you away from a lot of social media stuff to stay connected with some people. Talk to your neighbors, talk to your community, get involved, and just do what you can to make things better than what they've been in the last little bit. So, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. Next week, we have Fudbusters. If you guys haven't checked them out, Fudbusters is a really awesome new YouTube channel that is basically dispelling a lot of rumors and myths about gun laws and what things are and are not happening. So if you guys are interested in that, tune in next week. I've already got them lined up. The live chat's already set up. So I hope to see you guys there. Bring your questions, because we're going to pelt him with a lot of questions about gun laws and what's happening and what is maybe happening moving forward. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. Thanks again so much. Thanks for all the super chats. I really do appreciate that. As always, keep calm and carry. We'll catch you guys later. Good night, y'all.
See ya.